Bienvenidos de nuevo a Oportunidades en Grecia, el podcast en el que tratamos de acercar las oportunidades que, en el marco de la internacionalización, de la exportación, la inversión y la captación de financiación, el país presenta para la empresa española. Welcome again to Oportunidades en Grecia, the podcast where we try to get business opportunities regarding exports and investments in the country, Greece, closer to Spanish companies. Today, in this our 16th episode, we will tackle funding, and more particularly, the role of the international financial institutions in the country. Why is it relevant? International financial institutions fund numerous projects that might be of interest to Spanish companies, and their participation is a clear signal that those will not derail in time. It's good to have today with us Marianna. Marianna, hi, welcome. How are you?
Hello, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for joining us in this, as I said, our 16th episode. Marianna Nathanail is the European Investment Bank representative in Greece, where she has been working at the European Investment Bank for 8 years already. Before, Marianna worked for the European Commission at DG FISMA as Financial Markets Policy Officer and has held previously all the positions in various areas of activity, energy, shipping, and so on. Thank you very much for being here, as I said. It's a pleasure to have you around. Let me, before diving into the Q&A, give a very brief update about the economic situation in the country as we see it from the Economic and Commercial Office at the Embassy. Very briefly, just to say that the prospects look quite good. We have quite good macroeconomic indicators. The prognosis is that growth for 2024 will be of around 2.4%. Unemployment went under 10%. Best data in the last close to 15, 20 years. Inflation, I think I read this week, a few days ago, annualized last data is around 2.3, I think, when the average of the EU is around 3.2. And there is a slight imbalance when it comes to balance of payments. Primary surplus, good RF execution, new fiscal rules come in an environment where Greece has already tackled many issues dealing with it, and interest rates when it comes to sovereign bonds issued by the country, which are placed somewhere in between those from Italy and Spain. Investment grade for already some months, and so on and so forth. And without further ado, let's go in with the Q&A. Marianna, as I said, it's really important, the fund capacity of the international financial institutions, and very specifically that of the European Investment Bank. I would like to know a little bit more about the history of the bank in the country, in Greece, from its inception. How many projects, the volume of funding that you've done. Do you have any local partners that you traditionally work with?
So thank you very much also for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here and discuss about funding opportunities in Greece from the European Investment Bank. First of all, please let me step back a little bit and give you an overview of what the bank is. So the European Investment Bank, it's a group. It's the Bank of the European Union, which means that it belongs to the member states, the 27 member states. This is exactly what also defines our strategic priorities, because we work for the benefit of the member states, but at the same time, we are tasked to implement the main policies and priorities of the European Union. So we were established in 1958, and we have invested so far €1 trillion. Climate action is part of everything that we do at this stage. We are the climate bank of the European Union. So, and what it means to be climate bank of the European Union. In 2021, we took a very important and very ambitious decision. We committed to invest €1 trillion until 2030. In sustainable investments for climate action. we also undertook that all our investments are going to be taxonomy aligned, that we are the first institution that was Paris aligned since 2021. And we have also undertaken to invest more than 50% of our investments in sustainable investments. So climate action is part of everything that we do. The other priority areas, of course, are cohesion. So I'm talking about the remaining priorities of the European Union, innovation, digital and human capital, the support of small and medium-sized businesses, sustainable cities and regions, sustainable energy and natural resources. So I'm trying to give you an overview of all the things that are priorities for the bank. But the most important thing is that the EIB has a strong focus on impact. This is what drives us. And maybe to give you some figures about 2023 globally for the bank and the group, I would say. As I said, we are a group, so we are the European Investment Bank, and we also have the European Investment Fund, which is our group company focusing on equity investments and risk investments. So in 2023, the EIB group in total signed financing transactions of 88 billion inside the EU and outside the EU, high impact projects. 20 billion was for small and medium enterprises, 20 billion were for innovation and digital, 21 for sustainable cities. I'm giving you some figures, I know that, but just to give you the size and of the impact. And the 27 for sustainable energy and natural resources. This drives the impact is what drives the European Investment Bank. So if we want to shift to understand a little bit better what happens in Greece and how we are very active in Greece. First of all, the bank started operating in Greece in 1963. We started with the aim to improve the roads transport back in 1963, but ever since we have invested more than 48 billion. And we have financed more than 400 projects. The main area, which was at the beginning, our focus was transport. But then we developed the credit lines that are necessary for the small and medium enterprises. And energy, of course, now is becoming more and more relevant for our activities. What we have done so far is that we see that we have changed the geography of Greece. With improved transport, the roads, but also by financing the Athens metro line that we are using every day. And we know that more than 130,000 people in Athens use metro. So we have an impact, we change the impact of all the citizens of Greece. I believe that if we can see a little bit again the figures for Greece for 2023, we invested 2.5 billion. But the most important thing is that we were here, the EIB was here supporting Greece even during the financial crisis. It was at that time that the EIB decided to establish a task force for Greece. We established the investment team for Greece with loan officers and advisors on the ground. And this is exactly what influenced the diversification of our activities in Greece and our impact.
Well, there was a lot of content in your answer. Transport as a starter in the country. It reminds me of issues that happen in my country as well. And then the task force, I think I remember, when did the task force start operating in Greece? In which year?
The task force was established in 2016.
16, I think I remember the opening, and I was around back then. So very, very interesting that you have someone on the ground and dedicated to the operations in the country. I would like to, after this brief presentation of the history of the bank and, let's say, Europe-wide or worldwide, and then the particular activity here in Greece, I would like to dig into the activities that you've been doing in the last year. You mentioned a little bit some of the groups, but I was checking the website before coming and I saw that you've been funding projects that go from lithium batteries to smart metering to irrigation. You're a little bit all over the place when it comes to sustainability and, as you said, impact. What's your role in these projects, and what about the new lines of activity? I see there 4 or 5 main groups, and we can discuss them if you want. SMEs and mid-cap finance, sustainable energy and natural resources, innovation, digital and human capital, sustainable cities and regions.
Yes, indeed. In 2023, we made very important investments for energy. And I will start with this because I think that with the energy crisis that we are facing, I think that it was important to ensure that the necessary investments start on time. So what we have done in 2023 was to support the public sector, to create the necessary grids for the interconnection, for example, of Cyclades with the mainland. This is a very important project with the independent power transmission operator, IPTO, in order to develop the necessary grid that allows the creation of more renewable resources and allow the transition, the green transition of the energy sector in Greece. So we all understand that Greece is an issue, and this is why we are supporting the Greek government and the companies to develop the necessary and modernize the necessary networks. So one thing is the interconnections. The other thing that we supported in 2023 was the development of smart meters. Again, a very important in order to modernize the energy consumption and allow the necessary assessments to be made in order to have a better support of and reduce at the end the cost for the final consumers. At the same time, as we are financing the public sector, but also the private sector. For the private sector, we provided an important framework loan to one of the major players, one of the major companies in Greece, to develop storage, not only renewable resources, to develop photovoltaic parks, etc., but also at the same time to make investments in storage and all the necessary small networks in order to promote again the green transition, the energy transition. And at the same time, I would say that this is also covered with an advisory support. We have different teams in Greece working, providing technical assistance, advisory support to the public sector, but also to the private sector. And this allows the better design and the implementation of the different projects to make them more, to have the quality assurance that we need.
Maybe you want to complete a little bit talking about SMEs and mid-cap finance or innovation, digital, and human capital. I would like to say that I completely agree with you. I think you guys have been focusing in those bottlenecks that haven't helped too much to develop the country as an energy and renewable hub, which is what is the objective, I think. I think interconnection of the islands with the continent with other parts of the continent is one of the most important things to be done. Smart meters, I find it really, really interesting and important. I think the batteries are also one of the things that the current administration is trying to solve, sort of saying, right? So to cope with eventually the excess of energy supply to the net or not enough energy supply to the net. And on top, of course, I think the advisory support is something really needed and is a guarantee, I think, for those that eventually invest in projects that you fund, that the projects will go ahead and that they will be successful. As I said, I don't know if there is anything else you would like to add on SMEs and mid-cap finance.
In 2023, of course, we continued our support through the EIB and the EIF, providing the necessary credit lines to our partners, local partners, mainly the 4 systemic banks, but we provide the necessary financing tools or guarantees to the financing institutions in Greece in order to be able to support with better terms the local small and medium enterprises. And at the same time, something that we have just signed, and I think that this is important to be mentioned, we have signed the Equifund 2. It's the flagship program of the European Investment Fund. Very successful. The Equifund 1 was a best practice, is very well known across EU, and now we have just launched the Equifund 2, which is it's the fund of funds which is going to support startups in Greece, with the support, of course, of the Greek government. So I think that we continue with the credit lines. We continue supporting the small and medium enterprises in Greece, and at the same time we invest in innovative companies, and we have the necessary tools to support throughout the process. And I think that this is what makes the nature of our institution very comprehensive support for the private and public sector. And of course, at the same time, when we invest in a project, this is it has a quality, a seal of quality, and this is exactly what brings new capital to an investment. This is what attracts third parties, attracts other investors in our investments.
I think it's certainly great leverage potential. And we actually, I would say our main official financial institution also does provide funding through local private banks which commercialize the lines at some point. Let me ask you a little bit more about your instruments. What are the tools and how do they work?
Well, we have the main. Let's say that we have the two big parts of our work. So we have the EIB and the EIF. So I will start with the EIB. What we have is we provide loans, guarantees, and we provide also advisory services. So when loans, we provide loans to the public sector, but also to the private sector. We participate in projects, support project finance, of course. And we also have venture debt support for innovative companies when they are in a growth phase. And this is our complement. Normally we support investments that are of more than 25 million euros. So we support big investments. And the aim is to cover financing gaps. And for the smaller investments, of course, we provide our financing tool to the commercial banks, to the private commercial banks. We also work, of course, with national promotional banks, and we provide the necessary tools and financing and guarantees. We have specific mandates to promote and support regional development, and using the mandate of the European Union, for example, for the cohesion policy. So when we talk about the bank, we have to understand that we are talking more about the public sector and the private sector for big investments. Infrastructure, but at the same time, we co-finance as well the financial contribution that Greece needs to put for the deployment of the cohesion funds. So in order to make an investment under the cohesion policy, Greece has to use some money, has to invest some money. So we are providing co-financing to Greece in order to be able to support these investments, in order to build hospitals, in order to create new schools, in order to have infrastructure projects, etc. The EIF, on the other side, of course, works for debt and equity, and the focus is on venture capital and support of small, medium enterprises and startups.
And there I assume the ticket is way smaller.
Yes, because we are talking about a different risk. It's not only the size, it's the risk and it's the final recipient. So the EIF works as a fund of funds. So we don't invest directly, but we invest in fund managers who then make the necessary investment decisions.
I see it. Also, there is a lot there to learn. It could give for another episode maybe, just to go on and tackle these instruments.
But I think that also it's important to mention that the priorities of the European Union are continuously adapting to the new circumstances. Now we have to support critical raw materials. So we need to support defense and security. So in this way, we are also adapting our priorities. We have created, for example, one-stop shop for defense and security in order to facilitate investments in this sector. So we adapt to the needs that are defined by the European Union. So you will see that also our instruments are somehow developing. And our aim is always to make use of our resources, our low funding costs, as we are a AAA issuer. We are financed by the markets. We are issuing 70 billion bonds every year. With a AAA rating, as you understand, our funding cost is lower. And we try to give these funding conditions, good funding conditions, also to our counterparties.
I see. You can pass those conditions through to the end client that could benefit of those. Something similar to what happens when we're talking about direct lending, which is part of our official instruments in our case, in the case of the Spanish administration. We can talk a little bit more about this. We can talk a bit more about this later on. I would also like to ask you, where do you think there could be cooperation between the European Investment Bank, EIF as well, through the funds of funds, with Spanish companies? Bear in mind that, as you know, we consider from the Economic and Commercial Office that there is big potential in certain sectors that are, I would say, linked somehow to your regular activity. So we have been telling the companies and bringing companies interested in transport infrastructure. We'll have people coming over for waste management and water management all around the cycle of water. We're bringing companies that deal with energy, particularly with renewables, smart cities, tourism. We had companies coming over last November. So what would be the right way to cooperate with the bank? Should the companies ask for an appointment at the bank, talk to your bankers, the task force? What could be the best way to get to know what your prospects are and which operations you would jump in?
Yeah, so we have an Athens office. So this is a starting point. So we have people on the ground. We have people, bankers, we have engineers, we have people from advisory. We have a good range of people. I would say a relatively big for the size of external office in Greece. So we have the investment team for Greece, which is the first recipient of investment proposals. And these persons are very well placed to inform the companies about the projects that are priorities for the public sector, the opportunities and the direction of the policies of the Hellenic Republic, because the Hellenic Republic establishes, of course, strategic orientations for energy, for transport, for industry, and this is what drives the priorities of the companies, the priorities, the investments of the public sector, but also of the private sector. Our colleagues know exactly what is the situation, which are the strategic priorities. So I think they are best placed in order to give an understanding of which are the investment opportunities in Greece, which is the direction. And of course, we all know that energy is one very big pillar, but I see that there is already a very big interest for the health sector and innovation, digitalization. There are investments. Greece is becoming a hub for many different projects. I think that there are different sectors that can be developed, and as I said, we follow the priorities that are made public, and we adapt our investments, and we pass the necessary messages. The EIB is there. This is the.
I think your website actually is quite clear, and it can be visited anytime. And there you have a clear view of the sectors where the bank has had an interest in last year, probably prospects for next year. So I think I will invite everybody to visit the website, and of course to ask any of us if they have further interest to clarify. And I wouldn't like to close the episode without asking you about potential cooperation with the Spanish sort of administration of financial instruments. We have official instruments that go from pure cover to interest rate support, we can do investment funding and direct lending. As you know, do you think there could be eventually scope for further cooperation, sort of to leverage the funding from the country with the funding from the European Investment Bank? In this case, could we maybe eventually, for some project or something like that, work together?
I think that we have to always try to make very good use of all the resources that are available. Collaboration, for me, it's the most important thing. The good thing is that the necessary contacts can be established in order to put people in the same place and start discussing how we can make sure that we leverage all the necessary resources. I think that this is the most important thing that we have to focus. Discussion, trying to identify the investment opportunities, try to identify ways of collaboration.
Well, that's great news. I think we're all in sync, as usually people call it right now. I think it's very important to share information so that we can be in the same page and sometimes, of course, go further cooperating. I think that's very, very important.
And there are companies that are investing in both countries. We also have an office in Madrid, an EIB office in Madrid. We have people on the ground to explain also how the bank is working in Spain and which are the projects that are financed in Spain. And there, the Spanish companies can understand better how they can try to take a good use of the investments that can be offered by the EIB in Greece or in Spain. I think that this is important. And of course, collaboration between the two countries, I think that investments in both countries are very important.
That would definitely enhance investments in both countries and in the South. Hard to make quick conclusions or very simple conclusions from the talk. There was a lot of substance. Of course, the bank, as you said, follows European Union priorities. I think that's a very clear and important message. The bank has, let's say, two sort of institutions within it, which is the European Investment Bank, loans, guarantees, advisory, ticket over 25 million euros. Then you talk about the European Investment Fund, Fund of Funds, venture capital, and others, different tickets, different risk. I think you talked about climate action, climate bank, I would say, which I think is a very important issue when it comes to the institution, and impact. You talked about a lot about impact.
And if I can also
of course,
add
you can jump in.
I think that it's important to mention that our countries also need investments in climate adaptation. And I think that this has to be added, and it's a priority of the Greek government. And I think that it makes sense to focus also to people need to know that we have an EIB adaptation policy, which we can finance up to 75% of a project. And this is exceptional because normally we invest up to 50%. And this is exceptional. I think that this has to be mentioned as well because in our countries we need climate adaptation projects as well. So sorry for
No, very important. Climate action, impact, climate adaptation within climate action. We went through what's been done in the country. Transport, you mentioned the metro, that most of us, I would say, use it in Athens. But also the sectors. You talked a lot about energy, which I think is one of the main sectors as of today. What you've been doing lately, what you were willing to do. You talked also about other sectors. As you said, you adapt to the moment in history. So critical raw materials. You talk about health. You talk about digital, and you talked about advisory, which I think is also a guarantee, as I said, that the process will go on and will go on successfully. You mentioned there is a task force specialized in the country. I think that's very important also for Spanish companies. And of course, you're also based in Madrid. So it's been wonderful talking to you, Marianna. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to discuss and explore further our opportunities and our joint actions.
Thank you very much. Y nosotros nos vemos de nuevo en Oportunidades en Grecia. Sigue habiendo mucho por conocer. La marina mercante griega, cómo pueden las empresas españolas prestar servicio, hidrocarburos y renovables. Hasta pronto.